Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I'm your host, Karen E. Osborne, author of suspense and mystery books, Getting It Right, Tangled Lives, and this year's Reckonings. And we have as a guest today somebody you will recognize if you've been with us for this whole journey. You met Mary Ann Noe last year, just about a year ago. And we're so glad you're back. Hey, Mary Ann.
Hey, Karen. Yeah, it's delightful to talk with you, and to everybody else that's listening. That's always a good thing. It's fun.
It is fun. So I'm just going to remind you a little bit about Mary Ann. Oh, she is a beautiful, beautiful photographer. And when you go to her website, which she'll tell you how to get to find her, but you will see her amazing photography. And she's also a blogger. She's an author of short stories, essays, poetry. You know, I love meeting Renaissance women. And her novel last year, To Know Her. And now she has a new project that was just released. Oh, look at it. Oh, look, isn't that a great cover? A handful of pearls. That's a beautiful cover.
Yeah, they did a nice job, didn't they?
They really did. And she has another book in the final writing stages that she's going to tell us about too. So I can't wait to hear about all of your latest projects. But I know that you have some books nearby that you might want to recommend to our audience.
Well, you know, this is my little book that has all the things in it I want to read. Now, we don't have, some of them are crossed off, but we don't have time. But this one,
wait, I'll pick that up again for a second. Let me see that. Open it up. Let's see she has things crossed out. Look at that. That is so cool. That's your
I'm going to do a blog post on this. I think maybe next month I'll do a blog post on my reading list, which keeps getting longer.
That would be cool, though.
Yeah.
Photo there. Okay, so now, what do you have for us?
Now, well, I'm in the middle of this one, which is Agent Josephine. You see, that's Josephine Baker on the top.
Yeah.
It turns out that she was a spy for Britain during World War II. And her dancing and all of that was a cover when she would travel to Lisbon and all over the place so it's a la Eric Larson kind of. It's not quite as, he writes it like it's nonfiction, like it's fiction. It's so gripping. It's a little bit, you know, more nonfiction-y than that, but it's really interesting. So I would highly recommend that one. And then the other things I would like to read, I've got a pile, of course, as all of us do, you know. Tina Fey's Bossy Pants, I found at a rummage sale. And I love Alexander McCall Smith, the Ladies Detective Agency, and he's coming out with a new one. Louise Penny's Mysteries with Inspector Gamache, she's got a new one that's out. And then I've been reading presidential biographies. New York Times did a series of all the presidents, and they're all less than 200 pages. So it's Times Presidential Series. And I only have Harrison and McKinley to read, and I've gone through the whole thing. Times books. Yeah.
I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, they're short. They're easy to read, and they give you good highlights. And it was a perfect time over the past 2 or 3 years to read these, because you learn there's nothing new under the sun. You know, things have happened before, and we're still here. So that's a really good one. And the ones that I recently read, I love William Kent Kruger. I'm in Michigan. I'm in Wisconsin. He's in Minnesota, and so he wrote This Tender Land about a group of boys that are working, and a girl that are working their way down the river to St. Louis from down the Mississippi and down some of the other rivers. So it's very much like the Odyssey or Huck Finn combined. It's really good. And then I loved Where the Crawdads Sing.
Yes.
That's a good one. And I love the Cork O'Connor series with William Kent Kruger too. He's a cop in Minnesota, but he's a Native American or part Native American. So that's really a good one.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one before.
Yeah, William Kent. He's wonderful. If you contact him, he goes on Zoom to talk to book clubs. He's very accessible. So he's always fun to talk to.
That's very nice. And we are very accessible too.
Yes.
All you book club lovers out there. We are very accessible. Marianne and me.
Yep. Come in person, come on Zoom.
Come in person, get on Zoom. We are available and accessible.
Yep.
Oh, I love the premise of A Handful of Pearls, multi-generational family saga.
Yeah.
Just tell us about it.
Well, it's 84-year-old Betty, and like our mother's generation, these women don't talk about certain things. And so she sees her middle-aged daughter going through the traumas that she went through, and she can't bring herself to talk to her daughter about them. So she writes a journal. So the book is alternating between Betty, and the next chapter is Reggie, her middle-aged daughter. And it shows how they run parallel lives. But then Betty says, I got to bridge the gap here somehow. And she tries to figure out how to bridge the gap, because there's a granddaughter also. So it's very fun. And the first line, I have to tell you the first line, it is absolutely, my mother gave it to me. I learned to golf so I could smoke. Isn't that a great line? That's what started it all, because she was in a women's college, and all the girls signed up to learn to golf for Phi Ed so they could get to the farthest fairway where the nuns couldn't see them. Isn't that precious?
That is a beautiful, beautiful opening line.
I know. I don't think I can come across another one like that. So thank you, Mom.
One of the things Marianne and I were talking about before we came on to see all of you was how we would love to get her 84-year-old Betty protagonist, and my 70-year-old Vera protagonist from Tangled Lies, and get those two ladies together, because they have a lot in common. They're struggling with a lot. And maybe if they'd met each other earlier, all the things that happened afterwards wouldn't have been so fraught, but then we wouldn't have had novels. Well, we wouldn't have had a story to tell.
One never knows. We're going to have to work on that, Karen.
I think that's a good one. So you have a new project, right? You're working on?
I have a couple of new projects. I have actually the one you mentioned that I'm working on is called Hannah's Eyes, and it's been accepted. It's coming out March 2023, and it's about a middle grade. I always want to say middle aged. No, she's not middle aged. She's middle grade, and she steals her grandfather's fake glass eye, and she holds it up to her eye to see if she can see through it. And it transports her into a fairy world where the king and queen are at war, and that chaos is threatening to spill over into the real world, the human world. And she discovers all sorts of connections between the human and the fairy world. And she grabs her best friend, Meg, and they go back and forth trying to resolve all of these crises that are coming up. I wrote it for my granddaughter, and who is now 12. And she's all excited because she's seeing how long it takes to get a project into publication. And we're both waiting for the cover design to come through. I can't wait, because Black Rose has done such a wonderful job with my other two covers. So this should be fun.
I love that. So my grandson is 11.
Yes.
And he is a voracious reader.
Yeah.
And, Jason Lady, our fellow author, he writes a lot of middle grade books, and Aiden has read all of them and critiqued them.
Oh, that's even better.
So I'm going to look for this one and make sure that he gets to read it. And yes, it is better that he not only reads, but he critiques. That's what we want our readers to do.
Exactly.
It's a gift.
Let us know. And then let us know.
Let us know. It's a gift. So that sounds very intriguing, and it's coming out in March.
And I'm pitching another one, which I can't really say too much about it yet, because I've written it. It needs to be sent out to the publisher next month, but it takes place in Wisconsin, and it involves two generations, one of the late 1800s and the great granddaughter of that woman in like the 1980s or so. And the the contemporary woman and her granddaughter, who don't get along, are doing research. And that's part of what draws them together, is research on this great grandmother that they're convinced is a Native American, or at least partly Native American. And the reader gets the backstory from the 1800s. And there's all sorts of, because she falls in love with a Native American man, a Ho-Chunk man. And so that, I worked in a lot of the Ho-Chunk history with that too, because Wisconsin did remove some of our Native American tribes, just like other states did. So that one's going in. And then I'm also, which you might be interested in, I just finished, we're workshopping a closed room murder mystery. I'm a tour guide at 10 Chimneys, which is Alfred Linfontaine's summer home, and they were stage actors. And they are the real people. They would be like the Nick and Nora, you know, of that era. And they get stuck in their house with a bunch of actors and writers in a snowstorm. And there's a murder, and it has to be one of them. Who is it?
Who is it? Oh, so you like to genre switch. You're moving through different genres, and that's exciting. So, and you're so prolific. What's your writing process?
Well, on and off again, you know. I can go for days, and now I started writing again, but a while back there were 2 weeks where I hadn't written a thing. And it wasn't like a writer's block. It was just, I didn't have a lot of time. I knew where I was going. The story was up here, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't down on the keyboard yet. So I don't write every day necessarily, but once I get started writing, just, you got better stay out of the way.
It just goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. And you know what I don't know about you, Marianne, is prior to your career as a writer, did you have a career before then?
Yes. I'm trained as an English and psychology teacher. So I taught 7th grade for a while. And then when our kids were born, we decided I'd stay home, and I stayed home for 9 years. And then I went back and taught in high school. And I spent from 1985 to 2007 teaching high school, all the different English courses and psychology. So that was great fun. And then when I retired, I kind of reinvented myself. I had been writing, but mostly poetry. But I started to know her, my first book, which is about a high school girl, when I was still teaching, and kind of checked in with my students to see, is this realistic? Is the dialogue all right? You know, that kind of thing. But it didn't get published until after I retired. So it's been, you know, I've been writing on and off. So I have these manuscripts that I'm reworking, workshopping, and then, you know, I figure one a year. The Hannah's Eyes was a fluke. I thought I'd like to get it out before my granddaughter gets too old, you know.
So to enjoy it.
Yeah. So Hannah's Eyes will come out in March, and Handful of Pearls came out in September. And it's like, oh my gosh, how can I keep all these books straight?
Yeah.
I'm not complaining.
That's all right. We're not complaining. Do you find that marketing eats into writing time?
Yes. People don't realize that marketing and promoting is more work than writing, I think. Yeah. It's a lot of time. And I love it because I will go to a bookstore and I'll talk to everybody and anybody. You know, that first line from Handful of Pearls, I just insist people read that first line, and that a lot of times catches them. And I'm delighted to be able to share the stories that are behind it, you know, that this was my mother's line, and that I think it brings books alive if you can talk to people about the things and give them some personal anecdotes about why you wrote it or where it came from. You know, is it something that appeared in your head? Did the characters start to talk to you? Which they do. Yep. So, yeah.
So that's great. That's a great tip for, I know among our audience, we have lots of writers, lots of would-be writers, of course, lots of readers. And so that's a very good, a good tip and good information, because it does take a lot of time to market. And so if you like any of the books, you know, Marianne's wonderful books, you know, tell a friend, go to the library and ask the librarian if they would purchase it for the shelf.
Right.
Go to a local bookstore and say, oh, do you have Marianne Noe's latest book? Those are wonderful gifts that you can give to a writer that you admire.
Yes. And for writers, always carry books with you and carry business cards, because I hand out my business cards like candy, because my blog address, my web page address is on there, and that will help people connect too. So
that's right. And always, I've sold a book on an airplane.
Yes.
Just guy sitting next to me says, what do you do? And I say, oh, I write. And he said, oh, my wife loves to write. What kind of books do you write? I said, let me show you.
That's right.
Right.
Carry them with you. Take it with you everywhere.
Everywhere. So I hope you will look for a handful of pearls. I hope you will check out Marianne's social media and website. Could you tell us, please, how they can find you?
Very easily. It's my name. www.MaryAnnNoe, no spaces, no caps, just MaryAnnNnoe. There's 3 N's in a row there, .com. And you can look at photos, as Karen said, and you can get information on books and where I'm going to be and contact me and all that sort of fun stuff. Excellent.
So I hope you will do that. One of the other things that you can always do for a writer, for me, for Marianne, is follow us. Follow us on Facebook, follow us, subscribe to our websites, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you can find us. And we thank you.
Say hi, that's important. Give us some feedback so we keep going.
Yes, let us know. Oh, I saw you on what are you reading? What are you writing? And you were great. So we thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you next time on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Bye, everybody.
Bye.